Hopefully you're well caffeinated, you're ready to focus in on everything. If not, that's okay, these will be online later. I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about scaling your cloud-native adoption. I am going to be your tour guide. I'm going to show you what's off to the left, what's off to the right, and talk about who rescued who. Is it you rescuing your data centers, your workloads, all of your data? Most likely. This is a shout out to all of you who wake up at 3 in the morning and make sure that everything is running wonderfully. Before we dive into everything, though, I'd love to talk about what is cloud native. I've given this talk a couple times before, but I'm like, you know what? It's 2024. That's a pretty cool number, and it's even. So let's go back. Let's blow the dust off of this description. I went and I took a look at our CNCF Foundation GitHub repository, and lots of stuff changes in there. I think one of the coolest things about working in open source is the fact that not only can you go and access just about everything, take a look at old surveys, look at data, interact with all of these things and watch as it changes through time, but even the definition of cloud native has changed dramatically. You can see that this prior definition has this title of, the section heading was, Cloud Native Systems will have the following properties, which is quite prescriptive. And then it was hyper-focused on everything in containers. Didn't really focus on the networking stack, didn't focus on all these things that we know and that we interact with today. They also had a hyphen in microservices, which costs about 0.001 penny more in ink. So I'm glad that we got rid of that and went paperless too. When we take a look at the current cloud native definition, I've had a lot of people ask too, what makes cloud native? Taylor, I can run this on my Raspberry Pi at my house. I have this NAS storage system. Is this cloud native, even though it's within the boundaries of my own house? And the answer is yes, because when you're working with something that's cloud native, you're adopting practices and different methodologies. You're working with different interfaces that make up the entirety of this ecosystem. The goal of that is to have things that are scalable applications. That's what's creating this modern stack that everyone's using, this pluggability of everything. So we're working with containers and service meshes and all those things now, but we constantly are asking that question of what's next. Is it WebAssembly? Are we working with things like eBPF? Are there new standards and specifications that we can bind to and have that much more certainty as we navigate the ecosystem? Whoever you're using as a telemetry SaaS, for example, are they doing something that they're rolling that's proprietary, or are they abiding by all of the standards and specifications that we have within our ecosystem? What's nice about this new definition, too, and was said a couple of years ago, is that this makes the ecosystem able to be scaled. We can continue to keep adding things to it and having these conversations. And then you can drive all of these changes with minimal toil. That's the goal. You can still deploy on Friday so long as you know what you're deploying. So I have some numbers on this screen, but I really want you to take a look at that last one with the 87,000 plus people within the cloud native community. That's you. That's here. That's you are part of that number. This is one of my most favorite slides to update to as time goes on, because we just see so many more projects come in, so many more contributors come in. A lot of people ask, is that a good thing? Do we want to see the CNCF take on this many more projects? And we have different levels for each of those too, right? Sandbox, incubating, graduated. You can kind of think of them like new potato chip flavors, and all of them shake out, and we get to see which ones we like, which ones we don't. And that's the whole nature of that ecosystem, is just taking a look at different things at their different levels of maturity and seeing what truly works and what doesn't. More of a history lesson. We haven't sold Netflix the rights yet, but when we take a look at cloud native history, we see all of these changes that have happened too, from drag and drop deploys all the way up to high-powered GitOps pipelines that we have today. Yeah, if you haven't moved to that, let's talk afterwards too. I actually have a couple things I have to get off Jenkins in my home lab. We have the other thing that we want to make sure is that we are supporting maintainers in these projects, right? It's not an easy job to go through and to triage all of these different projects, all of these different issues, focuses, et cetera. We want to make sure that people are happy as they're going about and helping the ecosystem. As they triage things, as they connect with people. We want to be there. We want to help you out when it comes to educating folks as well. And so we're happy with our numbers now, but they can always be higher, right? They're not 100%. We want to have those conversations, and that's why we host events and try to help out with the community in ways like this. So why would you want to adopt CNCF projects? It's judging by the attendance here today, it looks like either you're really interested or you are working with projects like Kubernetes, Prometheus, OpenTelemetry, et cetera. And when we start to look at the reason why, that's when the strategies start to shine and they start to make sense. Many folks take a look at these projects and start using them because of that resource efficiency, right? It's not a guarantee that when you jump to the cloud, it's going to be hyper-optimized or cost-friendly or efficient, right? That takes time. You get it up and running, and then you start to refactor and work through that. But these cloud-native principles make that something that's a priority, something that's a little bit easier than if it were a waterfall deployment or something like that. When it comes to availability, multi-cloud, and hybrid cloud, those are also huge opportunities that we're seeing many organizations leverage and take use of. There was, I think, a story recently where I believe it was a hedge fund that had their cloud presence shut down by a cloud provider, and they had set some up at other cloud providers. So even when the worst thing happens or a completely unexpected outage comes about, it's really important to have a multi-cloud strategy or just understand how to fail over your data centers or make use of that. You also get that higher development velocity as well, right? By using these projects, you can make changes in Git, push it up, use things like GitOps, and then get those things deployed to production, staging, wherever it needs to go. When we take a look at some of the real-world examples in organizations, I put many in a hat. I picked them out. Spotify is one of those. Spotify came on early within the CNCF, and they've been wonderful to listen to and stream while you're working on these outages and building these new platforms. They manage thousands of microservices, and they contributed the Backstage project, which has helped folks keep informed and then make different dashboards, share information with their teams, and just truly be helpful within this space. The next one is BlackRock. I learned recently about their Aladdin platform and just a lot of different tools. Being here in New York, I'm hearing a lot about the financial sector and kind of what's going on within the space. And that high velocity, that low latency, lots of different systems, things that aren't always up, a little bit more ephemeral and just very, very horizontal types of workloads. So that's been really interesting to hear. A lot of the real-time data, I think, is what's most interesting within this space, and just kind of hearing about what's going on and ways that we can support that better within the cloud-native ecosystem. All of these different strategies, approaches, and ways to adopt cloud-native for those use cases specifically. Last but not least, some people run from their problems. Strava makes running their problem and giving you solutions for that. So it's fun to be out on the road when I'm disconnecting and away from my keyboard, seeing what Strava does in terms of using tools like Kubernetes to really provide you a wonderful platform to be able to access your own personal data and show you ways that you can get better. They're a newer member of the foundation, and so it's been fun talking with them and hearing about what's going on. One thing that we've spun up last year, and we're just getting into, we just got past the crawl, now we're walking and kind of gearing up to run with this governing body within the CNCF. We have our governing board, we have our technical oversight committee, and our end user tab. End users are folks that are adopting these projects and using them within their organizations. They're not reselling these products or these different applications, architectures, et cetera. But they want to share that, right? So our tab is focused on sharing all of that knowledge with the entirety of the ecosystem, not just for end users, but showing what's possible, right? Having those conversations and by being your advocate within the end user space. We're so happy that we finally have a place for our ecosystem to bind to ask these questions, right? If something changes in Kubernetes, say we're switching a branch name or something like that, now we have a group that is consistent and stable in terms of where we can ask those questions. We're here to support your open source journey. So lots to talk about here, but it starts with consuming something, right? And just pulling it down, trying to make sense, kind of turning it over in your mind, and really getting familiar with what's going on. As you start to scale up and get to that leader stage, there's a lot that happens, right? It's how to get involved. All of you are doing that here. You're in the participant, contributor, and up stage. So I want to give you a hand on that front. Thank you for coming today. Really excited to see all of you, and I'm excited to talk with many of you here. If I don't catch you and you want to sync up afterwards too, I would love to have that conversation. We also have many different case studies, so I just covered 3 really quickly, but there are hours and hours and hours of content. Many different case studies for you to take a look at, some from Netflix, Spotify, and others. We're also doing we have one end user journey report, which is slightly the same thing, but it tells more the story of open source and how an organization uses that as their overall strategy. So we have one up from Spotify from 2019. That's several hundreds of internet years ago. So we have some that are going to be coming out from Adobe and Fidelity and other organizations. So I'm really excited to share those with you as those come out later this year. With that, thank you so much. Really excited to see all of you here today. Cheers.